Yeah. So let me first of all tell you that how I came to understand the importance of observation. Well, that's, I think, the first point. Uh, Actually, it's a long story, but I won't go into the whole detail. But as I began to live with indigenous communities, rural, illiterate communities, I found a fundamental difference between what happens in an illiterate community and the so-called educated community. Very fundamental difference. I found that illiterate communities are constantly present, which means they are observing the world. Whereas I found the literate communities are hardly ever present. What I mean by that is that you are always in the mind thinking about all kinds of things that you read. We educated do not use our senses. We don't observe anything. We are always dependent on somebody's information, some expert, and we just follow what has been, you know. So I realized that the basic difference I say is that literates learn the word, illiterates learn the world. Right? And then I began to also explore one very, very important thing that is completely missing in the modern educational paradigm, which is about knowledge creation. Nobody talks about how knowledge is created. We are continuously made to analyze somebody's information. So we are basically second-hand people living on somebody's information. But we call ourselves educated because we remember so many nonsense that everybody keeps producing, except we. So as I began to live with indigenous communities, I found that children are born learning the real world. They need no training at all because that is the nature of life. To learn is the nature of life. Every living being is learning. Every living being, except the modern educated people. Because we are constantly relying on information and we are constantly relying on analyzing those informations and just applying those knowledge. We are never creating knowledge. That is the basic premise. And so there are two tragedies of modern educated people. One, they don't observe anything, they don't learn anything. What I mean by learning is creation of knowledge. It has nothing to do with teaching. And learning begins with observation. Without your senses functioning, no learning can happen. So what happens is that the children that you have will also learn from you that you can depend on somebody else's information. So unless you become an observer, unless you become a learner, you will not be able to, you know, you will not be able to let the child continue its natural tendency, natural propensity to learn the real world. Because children are going to imitate what you do. And they will keep seeing that you're reading a book and then applying that knowledge. You're asking somebody and then applying that knowledge. You are never present because you're always using some theory in the head and then observing the child. Right? So that is the most important reason why we should restart observation, is that learning has completely gone out from the modern context of people. Nobody is learning, meaning nobody is observing. It is very important that we come back to our senses, start using it, start feeling comfortable with not knowing. Because children are that. Children are continuously being spontaneous and creating knowledge. They are in the realm of unknown, which means they are not responding to knowledge. They are responding to unknown and spontaneously engaging with the world and making sense of it. So uh, the main reason for to have observation is that first you begin to learn, second you let the child learn. But there is a catch. The catch is that in the modern context, already we have created a wrong environment for children. It's like this, that if you want to study the nature of dogs, you have four options. You can read a book and write your PhD on that. That is what 90% do. PhD on reading somebody else's book and taking your PhD. The second easy way out is study the pet dogs that are around and write a thesis on that. You will get also PhD on that. And the third option is that you can observe the street dogs. They are not that conditioned, yet they are in a new environment. And the fourth and the most ideal way to understand the nature of dogs is to go to the jungle and then learn how they respond, because that is their natural context. That is where you will understand the real nature of a dog, what exactly it will eat, how it will hunt, everything that is related to dogs. Unfortunately, what is happening in the modern context is that the whole modern research on children are based on how to teach children. Correct? Everybody, the whole research is how do we teach children? So the understanding of childhood in the modern educated people's mind is the research that the Western culture has done. Children, the most conditioned children, actually, completely cut away from nature, instructed, helped, full of toys around, no process happening around. So, based on that, the whole modern parenting, especially the modern English educated parents, because normally that is what you read, Montessori and various kinds of theories of various people. So that is the framework. So we have already created a context in which the child is already doing artificial things. They are not responding naturally to things. There are, we have already, first, that there is a product oriented context. Processes are not happening in front of the child. That's number one. That even if cooking is happening, you're doing it 3 feet height. So children don't see anything that is happening. So the architectural organization itself is anti-child. So much furniture, so the child is made to feel that it needs help all the time, that they cannot function autonomously and independently, because the space that we have created demands your help. The kitchen 3 feet up denies the child from seeing how you cook. The dining table that you have is raised, so you need a special chair, and then you have to help the child to, so already the physical context is against the child. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you really want to observe the natural tendency of a child, you have to redesign, reorganize your spaces, physical space, and your psychological understanding of a child. So the physical space, the most conducive physical space for a child is the ground. Only then you will be able to understand what the child will do naturally. That's one. And then, of course, the moment you create your space and their space separately, for example, you say this is mine and this is yours. Again, you are creating a confusion in the child. Actually, the child doesn't have this feeling that it is mine and it is yours. They don't have a feeling of possessiveness unless we teach them how to be possessive. So, yesterday, just 2 days ago, I was watching somebody telling his little child. She was actually I was trying to talk to her, and then she, uh, you know, behaved in a certain way that the father started telling she is very shy. So you are actually introducing a concept to her which she is completely, foreign to. So you're instilling this idea that shyness. Children actually naturally children are not shy, but just because you begin to use the term shy, then they catch on this word called shyness, that idea called shyness. Is it too confusing? Yeah, because you see, if you actually look into I'll give you another simple example of a word that completely, changes our nature, the way we behave. Amongst the indigenous communities, there is no word called waste. WASTE. No word. Amongst the illiterate people, their vocabulary do not have the word called waste. Just by keeping a waste paper basket in your room, you have already taught children how to waste. That wasting is part of your life. You understand? Huh? So each word actually creates confusion in the child. When you tell a child, tell the truth, the child will understand there is something other than truth. Because when a child is born in truth. They do not know anything else. But the moment you tell a very innocent word called tell me the truth, you don't even have to don't tell me lies. Just use the word truth itself. Tell the truth. That is when the child gets the idea that, oh, there is something other than truth. Otherwise, they completely exist in truth. Uh, so, use of words is another important, what you call that, tool to condition the child. So, what I'm trying to say is that we have to be extremely sensitive to the words that we use, the kind of space that we organize, and of course, uh, the other condition that is required to observe a child is that please do not keep any toys in the house. Children do not need toys at all. Again, this is a modern, complete wrong construct. There are two things that are now being, spread around now. Everybody is caught on that two ideas. One is toys, some scientific toys and all that nonsense, and play. Play has become suddenly important. The West has discovered play, and now Indians have also discovered play. This absolute nonsensical idea. Children are playful, and they turn every object into toy, which means every object is a potential toy for a child. That's because they are playfully exploring the world. So how we create fragmentation is that we fragment children's lives into playtime. You play, so there is a space for that. So playground and all that, play park and all that. So you create one space there. Learning, you create another space, another time for that. And then entertainment, art, all these are our fragments. So when we fragment, so we already create a situation where you dictate what the child should do. you know, play, art, learning, work, entertainment, whatever. You know, for a child, there is only one thing. They're just trying to understand the world, that's all. Because that is their nature. Their nature is to understand the world. And nature has given them a system to understand the world. So actually, in case I find that most of you are new to my workshop, most people who have come here are new to the workshop. So maybe what we can do is that retain that group, WhatsApp group, and let's see if you're interested in continuing this exploration. What that actually means is that, you have to go through the process of removing things and see how this is happening. See, the other thing, let me also tell you my own experience of, spending time with my child. I have an adopted child. And when she came to my life, I took three decisions. Never say no to her, always follow her, never lie to her. Now, these three decisions are not my decision. This is what I see in a rural tribal area. So I just picked it up. It's not my decisions. In indigenous communities, children are never said no. Children never take permission. There are two very important things that has completely changed in the modern scenario. That the child has to constantly ask you permission. Shall I do this? Can I do that? That's because you had been controlling the child and telling, don't do this and don't do that. We begin with telling no, don't do this, don't touch that. And then the child then ask are conditioned to ask permission all the time. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do, all kinds of things. So, and of course, it's a long process. I want to tell you this, that it is a really long process because we are completely conditioned. We are also victims of this situation. We are completely conditioned that we will continue to tell no all the time. Because that is the way that we have been trained to. So it may take time. At least become aware. Start counting how many no's you tell in a day. That's all. Don't worry about stopping it right now. Then you will become aware of what are you doing with the child. See, other thing I want to tell you is that by nature, children don't get angry at all. Anger is something that we instill in them. I'm sure you must have noticed that children do not like help at all. They don't like to be helped. But you insist on helping, and they are absolutely irritated by your help. They rebel against it all the time. But slowly, in 5-6 years, you completely kill their will. That will is to be independent. Now, independent not in the modern sense. Modern sense, independence is absolute nonsense, actually. It's selfishness. That's not independence. Independence is more of an inner quality. It's not a psychological thing that, that I am somebody else. No, that's not what independence is. I'm talking about autonomy. So once we create these conditions, so this has to be done very, very slowly. It need not be, suddenly change everything, because that is going to cause problem. Slowly, slowly see, can you create a condition so that you can observe the child, how do they respond naturally to things, you know. Uh, so, so the thing that is that apart from studying indigenous communities for many years, observing children, studying means observing children and how they behave with, how parents look after the children. We also ran a school near Pune for 3 years, 2011 to 2014. And in that school, it was a truly reimagining school situation because people use the silly terms all around, but nobody really reimagines anything actually. None of the alternative education really addresses the fundamental question of creation of knowledge and how reading is very detrimental to your brain. That nobody addresses. Our senses are equipped to see the world, not reading somebody's book and then making a story around it. And please don't think that I'm against reading. I'm okay with reading, provided you are in control of your cognition. Today, what is happening is that we create completely second-hand people, clones, intellectual slaves who believe in somebody else's theory, and then we say that we can do critical thinking. This is absolute nonsense. What are you critical about? You read 10 books and then you say you can do some critical thing. That's not possible. Critical thinking is only possible for people who have authentically understood the world by direct observation. And unfortunately, that is something almost completely missing from the modern world. It is all books and books and books and books and more theories around that and then responding to that. So children give us an opportunity to, first it was, they demand autonomy. So they are actually giving us an opportunity to become learners once again by dropping all theories and just observing them and letting them teach you how to be. So the school that we ran, what we did was that it was in a semi-urban area. So the children were from the suburbs of Pune. Most parents were not literates. So we created a situation where there is no teaching at all. Absolutely no teaching. Because we believe that children by nature are creating knowledge. Whatever actually they are doing is part of creation of knowledge. And what we did was that all the so-called teachers, we began to observe children and document whatever they were doing. And we were almost every day continuously revisiting what we documented. And in that 2-3 years, we were able to understand that there is a clear system that children use, meaning nature's system, to understand the real world. There is a clear cut, what you call that, a grammar of learning the real world. It's like this, that all of you learned your mother tongue without any help, meaning nobody was teaching you how to learn language, no? Your mother tongue. You learned on your own completely. But implicitly there was grammar. Implicitly there was a structure, which is what is called grammar. Even though none of us knew what grammar actually is, we were all using, the grammatical rules without knowing. Similarly, there is an implicit order or a structure that allow us to understand the real world. Right? Is it getting too confusing? Yeah. Let me ask you, every child, when they sit on a sofa, do they bounce? Every child? Why is it every child doing? So what we began to understand is that we found that children all over the world behave in a very, very similar way to their context. Now, let me ask you one thing, that in your childhood, Do you remember keeping the book like this, notebooks, or whichever book you got? You remember? Yeah? You remember keeping the book like this, Anjana? Yeah? So why is that everybody did? I'm sure you did not learn from Kiran, no? Or Hema or somebody. Why is that we are spontaneously doing things that are similar? This is the question that I asked. All over the world, children respond to their context in an exactly same way. And that is what the structure is. Like grammar, no? Why is that every language has certain structure? No? Whether it is Kannada, whether it is English, whether it is Malayalam, Tamil, any language you take, why is that there is grammar? Similarly, when you are learning the real world, there is a clear structure, there is a clear grammar through which you understand the world. Do you know what this means? Keeping a, can you guess what this means? Why did you keep a book like this? Why did you keep it like this and say that this is a book? This is a house. Can you guess what is this? Mind you, almost everybody has done this. Take a guess, don't worry. You're not going to.
Roof.
Pardon?
It's a roof.
No,
House.
that is a different thing. But what is that? What was the, what is the connection between this and what you made? I mean, this and what the real object?
Recreating something.
Yeah, but what? Of what?
Of the
Maybe.
house.
House, na? Yeah. So let me ask you two, three more. Uh, have you all played house by putting bedsheet over the table? Yeah, that's second thing. Third thing is that you remember constructing a house using whatever is available. It could be the chair, pillow, bedsheet, whatever is available. You spend time constructing the house. You remember that? Three things. And as I told you, sofa, sitting on a sofa and bouncing. I'm sure all of you have seen. You also must have done, no? When you were small. Yeah. So if you look at these four things, this is what the world is. The world is form, function, process, materials, and structure. Yeah? And can you think of anything else of the world? What do you see of the world? The form. You see something, yeah, this looks like this. So this, what you made, this is the way the house looks. So this is the first one exploration of a total experience of house. So the rules that children use in understanding the world is experience the whole, explore the parts. The whole experiencing the whole means they are living in the house. They are doing everything in the house. So the experience has already taken place. Then they begin to explore the parts. The one part is the form. How does a house looks like? The form. Second is the function. Function is any contained space. That's what house means. Correct? Contained space. So you define a space and say this is your house. So you put a bedsheet over a table. Even though it doesn't look like a house, the function is fulfilled, that it's a contained space. Right? The third is how do you create the house? So children then use whatever is available and create a house. And naturally you're exploring how materials function, because I'm sure you must have tried many times how to put bedsheet over that house, no? It must have fallen down. You would have kept things to hold it in space. So we are spontaneously trying to understand how do you use materials, no? So if you have a hardboard, you will be using it some one way. If it is a bedsheet, it is another way. Understand? It's a very natural tendency to explore the materiality of things. How does it behave? How does each thing behave? Right? So let me share with you just one video of one doc. Of course, we have thousands of documentation of children from the school and earlier to that, and even now it is happening with many groups. Parents have been documenting, uh, and of course, some of them are sharing also in the group. So there are thousands of videos that you know uh, proves what we are talking about. So let me share one video with you in which a fantastic, very sensitive way in which a teacher uh, was with the child.
जिनन म्यूट है क्या ये?
There are several such videos that made us, first, it made us sensitive that how we should be with children. That also gave us, a deep understanding of what is the nature of the child. So, maybe we can open it up for you to ask anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for this insight. So basically, I have a couple of questions regarding multiple things. So basically, I'll start with the school thing. So you mentioned, right? So you did an experiment for 3 years, like how to observe children, right? And then had made some conclusions based on that. So basically, I would like to understand like what was the basic principle what we followed there. You said that okay, we didn't teach anything students there, right? Hello.
What principle? Tell me again.
Yeah. Like, what was the basic principle of that school? So, like, how did we operate? So, because in school, what we think is like we go to the learn some new stuff or new skills, right? So, if we are not going to teach them something, then how would they acquire new skills? Suppose, like, a new language. For I understand, like, our mother tongue comes naturally because people are talking just there, right? But in new languages, there are some new math skills or new science. So, how would that get like how would children learn that? Is it like just probably you could go ahead, then I will come back.
Okay, let's have more questions and then we will come to that.
So now that we have already have a corrupted environment, it's almost like kind of become an addictive, especially the screen time with kids, and especially if they're like 6 and above.
Yeah.
So how do we, or is it even possible to retrain them, or like not even retrain, but to disconnect them from that and get them back to.
Yeah. Where are you, Hema? Which place?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, US.
Yeah.
This is my first time here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Any more? I would rather, hear more questions and then respond.
Then I'll have one more. Yeah, please go ahead.
No. Okay. So you said that they should be accessed. I mean, the kitchen should be accessible and things like that. What about safety? Safety concerns, because my kid loves being part of the kitchen, but safety-wise, I've kept her away. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So I have one more question regarding the critical thinking. You said, right? So critical thinking cannot be acquired by reading some stuff, right? But yeah, reading gives us insight into a well-documented knowledge which is there, which others have found. And also, like we can learn different patterns which are there for like thinking perspective. Like for one thing, we can think from different perspectives. So that also we get from reading, and also like logical fallacies. If we learn, then what I would like to know from where you're coming from, like your thought process, like how the critical thinking can be developed without being access to the existing knowledge or something.
Right, sure. Okay.
Sir, I have one question. My son, he already has a lot of toys, and you said like there should not be any toys. So though he plays with, he spends most of his time with the toys, he doesn't even play. He just recreates it. The top would not be there. He would just recreate something else, like a mixer or something. Whatever he sees, he would just recreate. Though he's recreating, I'm happy about it, but then he spends most of the time with toys. How to disconnect him from the toys?
Okay. But you have understood the logic that I'm talking about? Why toys are damaging? Do you understand that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
To add on to this question, toys. So we can restrict on the toys, but from the outside environment, like relatives, or like you are being so strict, you are like not giving any screen time, like you are in the certain kind of like food journey or something, and your kids are like not at all like experiencing all the fun in the world outside, like you are like restricting our love, like giving like grandparents or the friends, or like if we are taking them to the birthday party, certain things we can't like restrict because we have to go like there they are like like the gift we are giving them the gifts, and then they are giving the return gifts, and like the toys are even though we are not buying toys are getting accumulated somehow, like in the form of return gifts and everything. So once they get the new toy, like they are get access to it, and then definitely the other day it will be thrown out, like it they won't even touch the toy. But like how to, like even though we are constricting the toys, putting the constraint on the toys, like somehow it gets accumulated in the house, like how much ever we declutter or something. So how to
I just have one other question about just the understanding the process itself. So like when they observe the processes that's happening around them, and they're like, you know, they're observing it all and making sense of the world, would a child also require a sense of validating what they see? So do they, so they're experiencing it as a whole, and then they're exploring it in parts, and then do they seek validation of what they have understood, or what is the kind of child's behavior in that aspect? I would like to tune in.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So I remember you saying in one of the conversations that teaching is anti-life and anti-child. But we have in our tradition, like in Tamil culture, we say there are two types of intellect, like Sol Buddhi and Sayal Buddhi, where one is you learn from experience.
A little more clearer, Senthil.
Okay. Like there are two kinds.
Two kinds of
intellect. Like one is you learning intellect through experience, that you experience certain things and you kind of learn from it. And the other way is someone tells you and you learn from it. Like you don't have to go through that same thing again and again. Like we as humans, we're progressing because we are able to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Somebody has figured it out and they have laid it out for us. And why is it a wrong thing for a child to learn from somebody else who has already done it for them? So that part, like, is what Kiran also asked, I suppose.
Sure.
Books are given to you. How can I can validate it through my experience, but why can't I even learn it? That part, if you can make it clear, it will be helpful.
Okay.
Jinan, Karthik here. An extension of the question raised by, rather than a question, an explanation raised by Sendil. Your session is on do nothing parenting, or making the children create the knowledge by senses rather than with the mind or the boundaries created by the modern education or modern knowledge.
Yeah.
But given the current scenario, when the children grows up, let's say 13, 14 years of age, he moves into a different world altogether, with or without the help of the parents or anybody. So at that point in time, if he is not exposed to, or if he is not, by then if he was not introduced to the systems of this world, it will be chaotic for him also, him or her. How do we handle it?
Okay. Anything else?
Sir, I have a question.
Please, Megha.
So the basic of, like, before even we start observing the child,
Yeah.
the first step I think is for the parents themselves to unlearn all these conditioning that we have been, gone through with our parents. So, like Hema said, that the damage has already been done so far, with the screen and with so many things, with the toys and stopping and saying no. So, for us as parents, it's very difficult to uh, we realize this is bad, but to actually inculcate in our daily lives is pretty hard as a parent, because we have been conditioned by our parents that ऐसे करना चाहिए. So how, as a parent, I should work towards first decondition myself, and then only I feel that I can actually start observing my kids. So if there is like a way we can, first work on ourselves and then put our child through the right path and right journey.
Yeah, Megha. Basically the problem is that the adults are so thoroughly conditioned that they don't even know what is actually learning. This is the most important thing that I am finding, that people assume that what somebody has, what you read is learning, that you remember, this is what learning is. And unfortunately, the whole modern educational paradigm is based on how to teach, and how to teach from written words, and the whole theory that everybody knows is whatever West has produced. Even when we talk about gurukulas and all that, basic premise from where you begin to even explore, that is the modern fragmented mind, so-called educated mind, which will begin to extrapolate what is gurukulas. So there is absolutely no authentic understanding about how senses function at all. That without senses, how can you even know anything about the world? And the other thing that we should look at is that you look at the modern educated people. How many people are actually interested in knowledge? You honestly tell me this. How many people have enjoyed anything that they have learned in their school or from their college? Tell me one thing that you have been deeply exploring, those so-called knowledge that you have. Can any one of you tell me that you are deeply involved in anything that you have learned? Then why do we say that hardly anything is wrong with education? You forget about the regular schooling. Tell me, from the alternative schools, how many have you produced? Not one. Okay, let me do a small memory test. Simple memory test. Simple. I hope you can, unmute your video and just tell me whether you remember this. Just one simple memory test. What is the color of leaf? Kiran, tell me, unmute and...
Sorry, color of what?
What is the color of leaf?
Leaf?
Yeah.
Green?
Green.
Of sky. Thoda memory hai, good memory. Tell me, what is the color of sky?
Blue?
Blue.
Sky.
Sir, there is an audio problem. I didn't get you.
Actually. And where is Karthik? Karthik is gone?
Yeah, Jinan here.
What is the color of what I just asked now? What is the color of sky? Let me see whether you remember. What is the color of leaf? That much you have to
Blue.
think. Central, please unmute and tell me.
Yeah, in general, it's shades of blue and shades of green.
Very good. So I just wanted to, let me also take you through one or two presentation, one or two videos, and then let me just, have I started sharing? Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Take a look at this image. Right? Please participate, then only you will be able to respond properly. All right? You seen the image? Right.
Yes.
The two images I showed you. Where did your eye go? Did you read or did you see? Do you know what was written there?
First read and then saw.
Yes or no, please?
Yeah. I read mostly, yeah, than focusing on picture.
Visual and then read.
Pardon?
The visuals and then there was something. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you see and what did you read? That's what I'm asking. You know, did our eyes focus more on reading? Did we spend more time trying to read? This is what I'm asking. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah?
No.
So what happens is that most educated people, most 99% educated people would read rather than see. And the answers that you gave about the color of sky is blue and color of sky is, leaf is green. This is a perfect example to tell you how modern education is completely damaging your mind. You are trained to answer questions. That's what it is. You simple thing, test you do. You ask older children. You ask about 7, 8-year-old children who are not so thoroughly schooled like you. They will ask back what time of the day you are referring to at least. Understand? And then you think that you can be critical minds. An absurd idea. Please understand this. Criticality cannot happen with this kind of a mind, which is completely believing in knowledge. And that child is able to critically ask questions. That's critical thinking. What time of the day are you speaking, referring to? That's critical thinking. Many so-called creative people will say, no, it is this, it is that, it is this, That's not the answer at all. So the truly undamaged cognitive beings are present and they will ask questions from presence. We are absent, so our questions will come from memory, not from presence. That's a fundamental thing. Secondly, I don't think we even know what is knowledge. We don't even know what is knowledge. This is the problem is that we assume that whatever we have read and memorized is knowledge. No, there is no knowledge in books at all. Knowledge lies only in experience. Unless you experience, there is no knowledge. Actually, see, I want to confess one thing to you, that I assume that most of the people who would come for this workshop are people who have already, participated in our workshop. But I'm now finding that 90% are new. You see. So actually, if you go through some of our presentations, our research on what children learn, how children learn, what is the process they do, then I don't think many of such questions will arise. But a few things I can also quickly show you some more. I'll just continue the presentation for some more time, and few things to confuse you further. Yeah. So as I told you, seeing demands your presence, effort. Reading doesn't demand so much effort from you. Now let me take you through some more, just look at these images. Okay, be aware of what is happening in your mind, how you are seeing this. Yeah? That's more important. All right, you saw this. Okay, now you look at this. See how the mind is reacting to this differently now. Yeah, this is learning the world. This is a sensory experience, a physiological experience. This is learning the word. There is a mental response. Both are different. In the earlier one, there was no difference at all, you know, what you saw, right? This is one way of, this is the way we see things. It is seeing. This is, mind is participating in this. Thing is that I'm sure you must have, traveled to Delhi or traveled to Cochin from there or Bangalore or wherever. Imagine that. Go to Delhi, come to Bangalore or Chennai or Cochin or wherever, somewhere in the south. So for most educated people, going to Delhi means going up. Cochin means coming down. Right? We are existing in two-dimensional realm. You know? So with the coming of literacy, there's a complete shift in the manner in which we engage with the world. We don't engage with the world, we engage with the word only, because we engage with two-dimensionality. Let me also show you something on knowledge creation.
నేను ఒకటి కోసం వెయిటింగ్.
So you see, this is natural learning. The child is learning completely autonomously. There is no knowledge to be applied. Child is creating knowledge. The child is engaging with the real world and nobody is instructing the child what to do. And this is the way in which natural learning process, the natural process development happens. Exploration, knowledge creation, comprehension, and the qualities required for a true learner. Intelligence, creativity. You see, the tragedy is that we have completely misunderstood all these terminologies. Creativity. All of us assume that creativity means some artist is doing something. Am I right? That's the notion. We don't think creativity is there in knowledge creation. The very act, every child is creative, doesn't mean they are doing art. They are creating new knowledge. That's what it means. They are creating knowledge.
Jin, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So just before the presentation, you said most of the current session participants are new to this world, your world, or the world that you are talking about. That's why we have so many questions. And my question is also there only. Because we are not exposed to this kind of scenarios, we have lot of questions or apprehensions or doubts.
Sure.
Similarly, for a kid, if he or she is not exposed to certain scenarios, ideas, or whatever, he will be what you call confused when at a later stage if he needs to encounter certain scenarios like this. At the same time, as you said,
Completely
you have
mixing it up. You're mixing it up. You
Okay.
see, somebody who knows how to learn, see, the difference is this, that the child has ability to learn anything, right? That's what I'm talking
Right.
about. And
Right.
that is what we kill through the process called education, because education is not about how to learn. It's about memorizing second-hand knowledge. This is the problem. So your assumption, you're assuming that you see, the problem is that we educated do not learn at all. This is my claim. You only will read something and assume that you have understood.
See, that's what I am talking about. You have created something.
Yeah, I have not created anything. I am telling that children have a clear, nature has given a very clear way of learning and creating knowledge. Don't confuse these two things. You are not able to understand me because you have never observed children. That's the reason.
That's what I'm saying.
What it means is that, don't confuse it. I know your question, please. I know what you're trying to ask. You're confusing things like anything. You are telling that you are comparing you with a child who is a learner. You are not a learner. Understand this.
No. I am not comparing with them.
That's what you're trying to say, na?
Yeah, no. See, you have created some knowledge for yourself by observing the kids in your school or with your experiences over a period of time.
Yeah. But before that, I deconditioned myself. That's the thing.
Right.
I also, second thing is that I stopped reading completely. I began to observe.
Right.
Understand?
Right.
So you must understand that also. Okay,
now the point is, without some form of literature, whether it is word, art, or some kind of thing, how your created knowledge or your experience or a kid's experience will be passed on to next generations.
So that is why clearly, one thing I forgot to tell you right from the beginning, that
because everything cannot be experienced by everyone.
Understood. So the first thing I always request my participants is not believe in one word I say. Don't believe in any word I say. Observe your child, and if you see a certain thing that is happening, then you don't have to agree with me. This is not a question of agreement and disagreement. Please understand, knowledge is not a matter of agreement and disagreement. This is a modern construct that knowledge is about opinions, it's about arguments. No, knowledge is about perception. That when you say something, that's what it is. It is not a question of agreeing, disagreeing. I hope that is clear. So there is a clear distinction between what is modern knowledge and what is indigenous knowledge. In indigenous communities, there is something called information and something called knowledge. These are two distinctly different things. Whereas in modern life, this distinction is blurred. Whatever you read is what is knowledge for you. That's what knowledge is. So this is where the whole problem arises, that unless you are using your eyes, your senses, there is absolutely no access to knowledge. You can only create more and more imaginary theories in your head. That's all what you can do. And precisely this is what is happening with modern cognitive science. Modern understanding of children, you told now that somebody will climb on somebody's shoulder, and that's a new nonsense, old nonsense that the West has been talking about. You have to climb on somebody's shoulder. No? Absolute nonsense. See, in biological process of cognition, you have to recreate knowledge. There is nothing new about knowledge. You are recreating knowledge. Your senses has to function. You can't do a relay race, that somebody has used their senses, so they tell you all that and you believe it. That's not how it is at all. Everybody has to authentically understand the
just to
world.
interrupt here, like if somebody is saying I don't have to believe it, but I can experience it and I still can accept it, right?
See, the
Even that's
tragedy is
what
simple. This is only a matter of argument. You're simply arguing. There is hardly anyone who is actually experiencing. This is my challenge. My challenge is this, that you look at the literature on children, on research on children, and you tell me where have they explored how children learn the real world. So the first person created a confusion about children, and the rest of the Western society is creating more and more confusion on children. That's what is happening.
this is only
Because
applicable for children, or this is
the
applicable
whole
even for adults?
research has been on how to teach children. So naturally, all your questions is around what to teach, when to teach, how to teach, what subject, which way to teach. All the research that has been happening is based on one simple question, that how do you teach children? There is absolutely no research on how children learn and create knowledge. Absolutely no. Of course, now there is, and the tragedy is that very recently they have started studying children. That is only because they want to create artificial intelligence. The cognitive science, the rise of cognitive science in the last, maybe 50, 60 years, that's all, has begun with trying to create intelligent machines. It did not have, the cognitive science did not happen in any of the, traditional disciplines. It started in mechanical engineering department, because they wanted to see how to teach a machine to think, to be intelligent. Please do some homework, no? Please do some homework. That the whole politics of modern knowledge needs to be understood. Yeah, Kiran.
Yeah, just I want to clear out confusion for my understanding. Like even Senthil also was maybe referring to that just now. So basically, what you are explaining now, right? It is only limited to how should we teach children or let them experience the things and then learn. It is not applicable for the grown-ups, right? Like the example he was giving, we are standing on the shoulders of like the giant others, right? So basically, suppose if you take astronomy or rocket science, so whatever has been knowledge based, then we like build on top of that. So
No, see, Kiran,
two are distinct things, right? What you're saying, maybe.
The knowledge that you have. Stick to the knowledge that you have. All right? Don't talk about cognitive scientists. See, you are all products of education. What is the knowledge that you have? Let's stick to that. Again, we are talking about some scientists, no? Don't talk about them. Let's stick to the knowledge that we have, that you have created by climbing on the shoulder of somebody else. Let's stick to that. No, that is your experience. Don't bring in Nobel laureates and all that. No. You see, let me tell you again that in the context of modern knowledge, we never talk about knowledge creation till you reach master's or PhD. And that kind of knowledge is basically, again, trapped in a certain framework. So what they produce is that 95% of people who are clones, intellectual clones, who believe in knowledge, and very few people who will create knowledge, which you think is knowledge. Because after I studied children thoroughly, I understand that whatever they are talking about is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's basically, you must understand that you're trapped in a system of consumerism. So the less knowledge you have is good for the seller of things. So within a capitalist society, it's very good that they have more and more people who believe they know, but truly they don't know anything. So they will completely depend on the products that are created for the market. And I also want to remind you one thing, that there is not even one product which is created for the child which is actually useful for the child. It is all for the parents' convenience that all products are created. There's not even one product, not even one. So this is the way that people get trapped.
Jinan, at what stage the childhood ends? I'm not using the word age consciously.
The thing
At
is
what
that
stage the childhood ends?
in traditional societies, if you actually want to understand traditional societies, of course you have to get away from your framework, and then only you will be able to understand traditional societies. You take any system that has been developed, you look at the classical systems, look at classical music. There is absolutely no systematic training. Of course, now the educated classical trainers will teach them in a very, very ABCD manner. And when you talk about Gurukulas, it is never teaching. It is always enabling, creating a context for learning to happen. There is never teaching. It is always a place where learning is enabled, that you discover for yourself. That's how it is. So this is our modern assumption, because we are trapped in this idea that somebody has to teach you, then only you will learn. We simply don't understand that learning is a natural, capability of the body to learn and, understand. See, I think, if possible, you should look at some of our videos, which has very, very clearly talked about how children learn, what is the system, why toys are dangerous, how children create content, and then my other videos on what is implicit knowledge, what is metacognition. All these things has been very clearly articulated, right? Okay, the difference between information and knowledge. Let me tell you this one simple thing, that amongst indigenous communities, when information is given, they neither reject it nor believe it. When you experience it, that is when it is concluded. Yes, that is knowledge.
So can we give information?
Huh?
Can we give information? Like, we cannot teach, but can we give information for children?
Senthil, we only have information. The problem is that, you see, I think, Senthil, what is happening is that most of you are sitting on a very defensive kind of a situation. But you are in a position where you don't want to de-school yourself. You're in a very defensive position and argumentative position, and very, very difficult to move forward. No, I'm not trying to change you at all. But what I'm trying...
Jinan, please. Now we are talking about how to observe children. So let us do something like Jinan told. Most of you haven't attended any of Jinan's or any of our workshops so far. So what we can do is, let us stop what we are talking right now. So let us observe our children for 15 days without any biases, without any conclusions, without any opinions, just pure observation. What child is doing and how it is doing. Those are the only 2 points we have to observe. And let us come back after 15 days and let us talk about it. Because now it's just it's very discussions and words coming from here and there, like information and knowledge. What we create is knowledge, and when we create knowledge, when that knowledge we need to pass to somebody, then it becomes information. That is the basic thing between information and knowledge. Knowledge we create, which comes from within us. Okay, and information is something, whatever knowledge I have created, when I have to tell about it, then it becomes information. That is the basic difference. And again, when we talk about knowledge, the main problem for us is we jump into sciences and all those things. What creation of knowledge for children is how to understand the world they are living. What understanding their surrounding is creating knowledge. So it is not that again we go into education. It is not education. जब बच्चा पैदा होता है, when a child is born, that child needs many things. So how it explores the world with its senses, so that the child makes sense of the world surrounding. There are very basic things like mothering, love, all these things the child is exploring and understanding. The child doesn't know any language, you know. So just by senses, it makes sense of the world. Very simple thing, if something is hot, if you tell a child that it is hot, it may not understand because it doesn't understand words. But when it goes to something that is really hot, child will go and then it will try to touch, and children are intelligent enough to sense the degree of hotness of that particular thing. They won't go and grab it. They will gradually go and they will see that, okay, this is something that makes me uncomfortable. The child comes back. That is the knowledge creation, you know. So these are the things we have to observe about our children. And then let us come back after 15 days, and then let us, and if possible, you can document all those things without disturbing the children, because nowadays so many videos we take of children that children have become quite conscious and they start posing. You know, you must have seen it. The children start posing. So then their exploration stops. So as far as possible, you document them. We start taking notes, because that is one skill we have, you know, nowadays we have lost also. So we write about it, we take photographs, and we create, we document. And it is not necessary that it should be very, you know, very beautifully done videos or anything, just for our information or just to observe. And then let us come back, because what is happening that Jinan really thought that all of you were part of our workshops, but it seems that you were not part of our workshop. So it is, you know, it is becoming rather difficult from both sides. That's what I could feel. So let us just come back and then, you know, talk about all these things. Sorry for interrupting, but it was, you know, it was just words going from one way to another. So I thought experiencing is something we really need to do here also.
Thank you for interrupting, because I also forgot what the workshop is all about. Sorry. Thank you very much.
That's what.
This is the best suggestion that, and somebody was asking what is the framework for observation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the framework is what I began to articulate earlier, that we don't interfere. Whatever is the situation, that will be like that. And slowly see if you can create a slightly more natural environment for the child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Natural environment meaning that first we try and, you know, first of all, try and see how many times you say no. See whether you are reducing it. What are the situations, you know? And then things like, can you start using the ground? That's other thing. Third is that, can you slowly remove some toys and see, because as I was telling you, any object is a object for exploration. They are not playing with it. Please don't create confusion that there is something called play separately from learning. Every object is being explored by the child to understand what is it all about. So when you actually then keep a toy, children actually think that is also another object. For you, it is a toy to play with. For a child, it is not a toy. It's something that they want to explore. Then slowly they learn that there is something called toy to play with and something else called learning, which is different. That is how we fragment the world of the child. Try and don't fragment the child, the world. You know, don't give things for. So other thing that you can do is that there are many of our videos. I can, you know, so stay in the group for some more time. I will send you few videos, I think. And also, please don't get into an argumentative mind and observe it. Then you will never understand what we are talking about. You know, be open to what we are talking about. And again, I want to tell you that this is not a theory that I'm trying to promote. I observe children for, from 91, I've been observing children. I've been documenting them. And from the documentation, I'm sharing my experience. You don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree. Create a situation and observe what children do. That's all what we are, asking you to do. So I think basic.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, Ranjana.
No, another thing is children are interested in observing processes around. So just please make sure that some processes are happening in the house, like vegetable cutting or cooking, whatever. But they should be, children should be able to see them. That is
And
another
also-
thing. And somebody was talking about knife or safety in the kitchen. But we have observed, like we are working with parents since many years now, and we have seen that even parents, they also have all these reservations about including children in the kitchen. But you also might have, some of you might have experienced that children are capable of taking their own care. So unless and until we are giving very sharp things to them, they manage themselves. We have seen children of 3-4 years also cutting vegetables with when their parents are around. So children are capable of taking their own care. So we have to trust them. And when we tell them that they have to be careful, it might hurt, then they get distracted. So we have to trust children for that, and we have to make sure that things are safe for them. So things, and just whatever you are doing. And nowadays I take a workshop for the grandparents also. So what I request them to do, and even parents can do, is repair things at home, so that children know all these things, that things can be mended, repaired, and reused. Then they don't have to grow up without knowing all these things, and then they go for recycle, upcycle, and all those things. So all these things we have to do at home, and then children will understand, explore processes. That's what we have to do at home. Yeah.
Hema, yes, Hema.
Actually, could you please, today's session was very liberating. Thank you. So can you please share us the knowledge base, or like what are the videos about, the metacognition and different things, so we get up to speed with learning, I guess.
Sure. I hope all of you are in the group. Then I will send it to the group, because it's difficult to send it to all other places.
Oh, when you say group, you have been saying group.
You write to me. Yeah, please remind me. I will add you to this particular group, and and then see how to go about. All right. So observe that, and then let's see. We'll, as Ranjana was suggesting, we can come back maybe after a few days, and yeah. I think Gita Selvam had something to say. I saw your hand raised once.
No, actually, that was by mistake. Our daughter raised her hand on our behalf. So all good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So let us meet after 15 days.
Malti, you want to say something or no? No. Malti, no.
No.
Okay. All right then. So this is recorded. I will send it to the group. Right. I will send the link to the group. So please take a look at that, and then you can, you can also. I will send you all the other links. What we have. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.